The sun rose higher over the desert, burning the sand until it shimmered like molten metal. The SEAL commander followed Wren cautiously, his rifle ready, yet his eyes never leaving her. She carried the Barrett 50 effortlessly, her movements fluid. Deliberate, each step measured as if the desert itself bent to her will. The men behind them tense their bodies, rigid faces pale from fear and awe, mingling in their veins. Wren paused at the edge of a jagged ridge, scanning the horizon, her eyes sharp, calculating distances, angles, wind, drift, slope, and trajectory. The commander noticed the subtle twitch of her fingers as she adjusted the rifle. Her breathing calm, even controlled, the men whispered softly to one another, speculating about her past. Experience none daring to interrupt her rhythm. The metal on her chest catching sunlight, 305 kills etched into metal, a testament to survival and precision. A distant rumble caught their attention, the ground trembling faintly beneath. Their boots. The first shadows appeared, moving faster than human reflexes, coordinated, deliberate, almost as if anticipating every move. The men raised their rifles, firing wildly, but the bullets fell short. Wren adjusted the scope softly, whispering numbers, and fired the first round. The nearest figure collapsing mid-stride, the desert seemed to pause for a heartbeat. The commander's pulse quickened, awe and disbelief mingling in his chest. Another figure surged from the rocks, dodging bullets. With impossible grace, she fired again, the target faltering, then crumpling, the rhythm of her fire. Precise, unstoppable, deliberate, the desert alive with memory. Each shot a heartbeat. Each impact a story of survival and experience, every kill recorded. Not just on the metal, but in the echoing sand. The commander realized that her 305 kills were not legend. They were reality, alive in every motion. The shadows pressed closer, coordinated, moving like a single force, the ground trembling. Beneath them, dust swirling with every step, the men panicked, their bullets useless. Wren remained calm, tracking every movement, predicting every step before it happened, adjusting the Barrett for wind elevation and slope. Each shot a heartbeat in the desert. Each impact final and deadly, the commander felt. Awe, fear, and understanding all at once. She had become a force. The desert acknowledged. She shifted slightly, adjusting for angle, checking the bipod. She whispered quietly, another round fired. A shadow collapsing, a second target went down, then a third. The rhythm unbroken. The desert seeming to yield to her command. The men watched silently, their disbelief growing each shot, confirming the impossible. She was more than a soldier, she had become a sentinel of the desert and its deadly memory. The commander's pulse hammered. He had underestimated her, and the metal now seemed like a warning, not a record. The ridge above them trembled, sand and rocks tumbling down the slopes. The next wave of shadows, faster, coordinated with impossible precision. The men ducked behind cover. Wren raised the Barrett, scanning the horizon, slight smile playing on her lips, almost imperceptible, yet the commander felt it. She knew the desert was testing her. The next wave more coordinated, more lethal. Yet she did not hesitate, every calculation executed perfectly, every shot landing, the desert bending to her rhythm, each round a heartbeat in a story of survival and mastery. The shadows surged from both sides, converging, the men firing in panic, their bullets useless. She remained calm, the desert alive, responding to her calculations. Each shot finding its mark. The commander watched her hands deftly adjusting sight, bipod, and trigger angle without missing a beat. Every kill, remembered every shot final. The desert seeming to exhale around her, every echo. A testament to skill, precision, and the legendary 305 kills. Suddenly, a larger tremor shook the range, rocks and sand cascading. Down the canyon walls, the men ducked instinctively. Wren raised the Barrett, scanning the horizon. The first shadows from higher ground, moving coordinated, faster than any human. Yet she remained absolute. Her rhythm unbroken, each shot landing precisely. The commander felt the weight of her history pressing down on him. Every mission, every kill a ghost, alive, testing them in the present. The shadows surged from all sides, the canyon alive with motion, the men frozen in fear, Wren's eyes narrowed, adjusting. The Barrett each shot precise, deadly, unstoppable. She moved methodically, changing positions, adjusting for recoil, wind, and slope. Each impact a message, a warning, a story of survival. The commander understood that every mission behind the medal lived. In her movements, every kill a lesson, every shot a warning. The desert had not finished testing them. Finally, the canyon fell silent, the shadows dissipating into sand and rock, the desert humming with echoes, the men exhausted, shaking in awe. The commander approached slowly, the metal glinting in the sun. She whispered softly. Each one remembered. Each one held every shot never forgotten. The desert alive, carrying faint metallic echoes of missions past. He knew instinctively that the story of 305 kills was far from finished, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. The wind rose, carrying dust and faint echoes of bullets. Wren adjusted the Barrett, scanning the distant horizon. The commander felt a deep chill. The desert seemed alive, testing them all, waiting for the next wave. He knew instinctively that the 305 kills were not just numbers. They were warnings, and the story behind them, far from over the shadows, gone for now, but the desert alive, still waiting for the next test, and she would rise to meet it. The desert was quiet now, the sun high and merciless, casting long heat waves across the sand and jagged rocks. The SEAL commander crouched behind a crate, his rifle ready, but his eyes never leaving. Wren, she moved with absolute calm, carrying the Barrett 50 like it weighed nothing. Every motion, deliberate, precise. Measured the men behind them, tense, their bodies rigid, their faces pale from adrenaline and awe. They had seen skill before, but nothing like this. The medal on her chest glinting. 305 kills, a warning and a history at once. She paused, scanning the horizon, her eyes sharp, calculating distances, angles, wind drift, and slope. The commander noticed the subtle movement of her fingers, adjusting the rifle, checking the bipod, breathing. Slow controlled her focus, absolute. The men whispered to one another, speculating on her past missions, none daring to interrupt her rhythm. The desert alive around them, carrying faint echoes of bullets and footsteps of the past. Every shadow remembered every kill, accounted for the medal. 305 kills gleaming in the sun. A faint tremor ran through the ground, the first sign of a new threat figures emerging from the distant ridge, coordinated, moving faster than human reflexes. The men fired wildly, but their bullets fell short. She whispered numbers softly, adjusting the scope, calculating impossible trajectories, then fired the first round the nearest figure, faltering and crumpling into the sand. The desert paused. The commander's heart pounded in disbelief, awe and fear intertwining. He realized that the next wave would test them all. Another figure surged from the rocks, moving impossibly fast. Wren fired again, the target jerking before collapsing, the rhythm of her shots, precise, unstoppable, deliberate. The desert alive with memory, each shot a heartbeat, each impact final. Every kill remembered the men behind her, whispering in awe, unable to comprehend the skill displayed. The commander stepped closer, instinctively trying to understand the impossible. She motioned subtly. Stay, and he obeyed, frozen by a mix of fear and respect. The shadows surged from both sides, coordinated, deliberate, moving like a single force, the ground trembling beneath them, dust and stones cascading. The men, panicked bullets flying uselessly. Wren remained calm, tracking, predicting, adjusting the Barrett for wind elevation slope, each shot a heartbeat in the desert. Each impact lethal final, the commander felt. Awe, fear, disbelief, and understanding all at once. The medal on her chest more than a record, a chronicle of experience, precision, and survival earned under fire. She shifted slightly, adjusting elevation, scanning the horizon, murmuring quietly. Another round fired. The first shadow collapsed. A second target fell, then a third. The rhythm unbroken, the desert yielding to her command. The men watched silently, disbelief and awe mingling each shot, confirming the impossible. She was more than a soldier. She had become a sentinel of the desert and its deadly memory. The commander's pulse raced. He had underestimated her, and the medal now seemed a warning. Not a relic. The ridge above them trembled rocks, sliding down the slopes, the next wave moving coordinated faster than any human. Yet she remained absolute. Each shot landing perfectly. The desert bending to her rhythm, each round a heartbeat. A story of survival mastery, precision. The men ducked. Behind cover, their fear palpable, she moved methodically, adjusting for recoil wind slope, each impact a message, a warning. The commander understood every mission behind the medal lived in her movements. Every kill a lesson, every shot a warning. The desert had not finished testing them. The shadows converged from all sides, the canyon alive with motion. The men frozen. Wren's eyes narrowed, scanning, calculating, adjusting the Barrett, each shot precise, deadly, unstoppable. She shifted positions, adjusting for recoil wind slope, every target collapsing in rhythm each round. A story, a heartbeat, a memory she had survived all of this before. The commander realizing then that the medal 305 kills was not just history. It was proof of everything she had endured. Finally, the canyon fell silent, the shadows dissipating into sand and rock, the desert humming with echoes, the men exhausted, shaking in awe. The commander approached slowly, the me. The desert stretched endlessly, the sun burning high, casting shimmering heat across the broken range. The SEAL commander crouched behind a rusted crate, his rifle ready, but his eyes never leaving Ren. She moved with calm precision, her hands steady. On the Barrett 50, the men behind him tensed, their faces pale from adrenaline. They had seen skill before, but nothing like this. The medal on her chest, glinting 305, kills a silent warning of what she could do. The first shadow appeared along the distant ridge, a figure moving fast, deliberate, almost inhuman. The men instinctively raised their rifles, but Ren did not flinch. She whispered numbers, distances, angles, wind drift under her breath, then fired the first shot. The round slicing through the air, striking the figure precisely. It collapsed in a puff of dust. The desert seemed to pause for a heartbeat. The men staring open-mouthed, the commander feeling awe and disbelief intertwining. Another figure moved faster than any human he had ever seen, dodging wild bullets. The men fired frantically, but nothing connected. She adjusted the scope slightly, murmuring more numbers, and fired again. The second target faltered, then crumpled, the rhythm of her fire precise. Unstoppable, deliberate, the desert alive with memory and history, each shot a testament to skill, patience, and experience, every kill recorded not just on the medal, but in the echoing sand. The shadows surged in coordinated waves, testing their reactions. The ground trembling faintly beneath their boots, dust swirling with each movement. The men panicked, their bullets flying uselessly. Ren remained calm, tracking each target, predicting each step before it happened, adjusting the Barrett for recoil, wind, and elevation. Each pull of the trigger a heartbeat in the desert. Each impact final and deadly. The commander realized that her record of 305 kills was not legend. It was reality alive in every motion. He tried to step closer, to assist, to comprehend the impossible, but her eyes flicked to him a silent warning stay, and he obeyed, frozen by awe and fear. She fired again, the barrel cracking, targets falling one after another. Impossible speed, precision unmatched. The desert itself seemed to bend to her will, the men behind him whispering in disbelief, unable to follow the rhythm of her actions or the sheer force of experience she carried. The first wave of shadows dissipated, but more emerged faster, coordinated more. Dangerous. The commander felt a chill. The desert alive, testing them, her every move deliberate, adjusting for angle, slope, wind, and distance. She fired, each round a story of survival, each impact a lesson in precision. The men watched silently, their rifles useless against her rhythm. She had become more than a soldier. She had become a force. The desert acknowledged. Suddenly a tremor shook the sand, a low metallic hum echoing across the rocks. The men froze, looking to Wren for direction. She adjusted, the Barrett scanning the horizon, her fingers tracing the scope, calculating impossible numbers. The next wave of shadows surged faster from both sides, coordinated. They moved with the memory of past defeats. She fired again, each round precise, deadly. Final. The commander swallowing hard, realizing that the desert had become her battlefield, and she was its master. The men ducked behind cover bullets, striking empty sand figures moving unnaturally fast. Wren's eyes calm, calculating every movement. Predicting angles, distances, velocities, the commander felt fear, awe, and disbelief all at once, each shot telling the story of the missions behind her medal. Every kill earned, everyone remembered the desert alive with echoes of operations long past. The shadows faltering under the rhythm of her aim, then vanishing into dust. She lowered the Barrett, briefly scanning the horizon. The commander dared to speak, pointing at the medal. 305 kills. She glanced at him without breaking. Focus. Everyone counted, everyone remembered, she said softly. The desert seemed to exhale around them, alive with memory. The men trembling in awe, understanding they had witnessed history in motion. She did not speak further, only adjusted the rifle. Again, scanning, waiting for the next impossible wave. The wind picked up sand, whipping across their faces. The shadows surged from higher ground, impossible distances, coordinated speed and intent. Wren's eyes narrowed, adjusting the Barrett each shot. Precise, deadly, unstoppable. The men panicked, ducking for cover, yet she remained absolute. Her rhythm unbroken, each target falling as if erased by the force of her skill. The commander felt the weight of her experience pressing down on him, every movement, a warning, every kill, a lesson. Finally, the canyon fell silent, the shadows dissipating into sand and rock, the desert humming with echoes of bullets and wind, the men shaking in disbelief. The commander approached slowly, the medal on her chest. Catching the sun, she whispered, each one remembered. Each one held, every shot, never forgotten. The desert listening, the wind carrying the faintest metallic echoes of missions past. And he knew instinctively the story of the 305. Kills was far from over. The men regrouped cautiously. The commander staying close to Wren, realizing that whatever came next, it would be her lead. Her calculations, her decisions that determined survival. The desert alive around them, waiting for the next test. He glanced at the Barrett, the medal, and understood that her legend was not recorded in stories alone. It lived in her every motion, every shot, every heartbeat. The shadows gone for now, but the desert alive, still waiting for the next chapter. Sun had climbed higher over the desert, casting its relentless heat across the range. The SEAL commander moved cautiously behind Wren, keeping close, his rifle ready. Yet his eyes never leaving her, she carried the Barrett 50 like it was weightless. Her movements fluid, precise and deliberate. Each step measured as if the sand itself bowed to her presence. The men behind them tensed their bodies, rigid, their faces pale with adrenaline, fear and awe mixing in their veins. Wren paused at the edge of a narrow canyon, scanning the horizon. Her eyes sharp, calculating distances, angles, wind, drift, and trajectory. The commander noticed the slight twitch in her fingers as she adjusted the rifle. Her breathing, even yet, controlled. The men whispered softly to one another, speculating about her past experience, none daring to interrupt the rhythm she maintained, the medal on her chest, catching the sunlight, 305 kills etched into metal, each one a testament to survival and precision. Flicker of movement caught her eye, a shadow racing along the ridge faster than any human she had trained to anticipate. But these movements were different, coordinated, deliberate, almost as if they knew the terrain better than she did. The men raised, rifles firing wildly, but the bullets fell short. The commander felt the chill of helplessness creeping up his spine. She murmured numbers, softly, adjusting her scope, and fired the first round, the figure jerking before collapsing. The desert itself seemed to hold its breath. Another shadow surged from the rocks, then another, her rounds striking each target with impossible accuracy. The men panicked. Their fire scattered, but she remained calm, calculating every factor in her mind, adjusting for wind, angle, slope, distance, and movement of the unseen enemy. Each shot a heartbeat, each impact final and precise. The commander realized then that the medal was more than recognition. It was a chronicle of missions completed under impossible conditions, a ledger of death and survival. The shadows pressed closer, faster, more coordinated, the ground trembling beneath them, dust and small stones cascading down the slopes. The men ducked instinctively, bullets flying in desperation. Ren remained absolute, calm, scanning, predicting each movement before it happened, her finger squeezing the trigger with perfect rhythm, each round an echo of past missions. The commander felt awe, fear, disbelief, and understanding all at once, the desert alive around them, testing the limits of skill, courage, and endurance. She shifted slightly, adjusting for elevation, checking the bipod. She whispered quietly to herself. Another round fired and the shadow crumpled. Mid-stride, a second target fell, then a third. The rhythm, unbroken. The desert seeming to yield to her command. The men watched silently, their disbelief growing, each shot confirming the impossible. She had become more than a soldier. She had become a force of nature, a sentinel of the desert and its deadly memory. The commander's pulse hammered. He had underestimated her, and the medal on her chest now seemed like a warning, not a record. The ridge above them trembled, sand and rocks tumbling down the slopes, the next wave of shadows moving faster, coordinated, with precision, almost supernatural. The men ducked behind, cover their fear, palpable. Ren adjusted the Barrett without hesitation, calculating trajectories impossible to follow. Without decades of experience, each shot precise, deadly, and unstoppable. The commander felt the weight of her history pressing down on him. Every mission, every kill a ghost, now alive, testing them again in the present. The shadows surged from both sides, converging around the canyon, the men firing in panic, their bullets useless. She remained calm, the desert alive, responding to her calculations, each shot finding its mark. The commander watched her hands move deftly over the rifle, adjusting sight, bipod, and trigger angle. Without missing a beat, every kill remembered, every shot final, the desert seeming to exhale around her. Every echo, a testament to skill, precision, and the legendary 305 kills she had achieved. Suddenly, a larger tremor shook the range rocks and sand cascading down the canyon walls. The men ducked. Instinctively, Ren raised the Barrett, scanning the horizon, a slight smile playing on her lips, almost imperceptible. Yet the commander felt it. She knew the desert was testing her, the next wave of shadow. The sun was low over the training range, casting long shadows across the sand and broken crates. The SEAL commander stood watching as she knelt over the massive Barrett 50, her hands moving with slow, deliberate care, as if speaking to the weapon. Itself, he had seen soldiers handle rifles before, but never with this kind of calm, focused precision. She worked meticulously, wiping the barrel, checking the bolt, her movements confident yet gentle. He noticed the way her eyes never left the rifle, scanning every crevice for dirt or defect, her fingers tracing the metal as though memorizing its weight and history. The commander smirked, at first thinking she was overdoing it. A rookie fascinated with hardware, but something in the way she breathed, in sync with the rifle, made him pause, a chill running down his spine. She was not just cleaning a gun, she was communicating with it, learning it, teaching it, and something else that he could not name. The men around the range laughed quietly, thinking she was merely meticulous. He watched silently, noting the scars on her knuckles faint, yet telling the story of experience earned through pain and battle. Her hair tied back, her uniform pristine, but her eyes sharp and alert. The SEAL commander felt an unfamiliar tension. He had trained hundreds of soldiers, but the aura she carried was different. Her calm contained a weight of history that pressed against the air around her. She lifted the Barrett with ease, checking the scope, adjusting the bipod, her fingers quick yet careful. The commander stepped closer, curious and wary at the same time. "What do you see?" he asked lightly, expecting a simple answer. She did not look up. Only murmured numbers, distances, angles, corrections for wind drift and terrain. The words were quiet but precise, calculated, and the commander realized immediately that these were not hypothetical numbers. She had seen them before, memorized and measured with the certainty of someone who had lived by them. He leaned in, closer, noticing a glint beneath the rifle on her chest, a small medal catching the light. His eyes narrowing as he squinted. The medal bore, engraving faint but unmistakable, 305 kills. The commander froze, unable to comprehend how someone so young, appearing so calm, could carry a record of lethality beyond anything he had ever witnessed or trained for. He swallowed hard and took a step back, realizing that this was not a simple cleaning exercise. The men around them continued. Joking, oblivious to the weight in the air, the commander motioned for silence, his mind racing. Each shot counted, each kill, remembered each one, a story of survival, precision, and control. She adjusted the rifle again, testing the trigger and the barrel, clicked a soft metallic note that seemed to echo across the range. Her hands steady, her gaze focused and unwavering. The commander felt a deep unease building in him, a mixture of awe, fear, and anticipation. He could sense that the secret behind the medal was more than just numbers. Suddenly the wind shifted, scattering dust and spent shell casings across the sand. The commander felt the desert itself hold its breath. The woman shifted slightly, her eyes narrowing, scanning the horizon beyond. "The range," she whispered to herself. Distances, velocities, and timing for shots that seemed impossible to calculate. The commander stepped closer, feeling an unshakable certainty that he was witnessing skill beyond training, beyond experience she had learned, something no one else could comprehend, and the desert carried it. He noticed her hands moving deftly along the barrel, checking for jams or irregularities, as if speaking silently to the weapon. The men behind him whispered among themselves, speculating about her background, none daring to interrupt her rhythm. The commander felt his pulse quicken, the metal glinting against her chest, a silent warning of what she could do. A story of hundreds of lives ended or saved, precise, measured, deadly. And now, before him in the quiet of the range. The woman paused, finally lifting her gaze. The commander felt a jolt as their eyes met, a calm intensity in her stare that pierced through his thoughts. She did not smile. She did not speak, but the aura around her shifted, heavier, stronger somehow. The SEAL commander realized then that the medal was not a relic. It was a key to understanding the story of what she had survived, what she had done, what she had learned, and now he was witnessing the calm before it was revealed. He stepped back involuntarily as she lifted the Barrett and aimed it downrange, testing the alignment, her finger brushing the trigger lightly. The men around them froze, expecting at most a routine sighting. But what happened next made the air itself tighten. A distant target erupted in dust, a precise shot. The commander blinked once and then again, trying to process the impossible. She had hit something far beyond any normal range, her eyes calm, her breathing, even the metal on her chest catching the last rays of the sun glinting like a warning. The wind shifted again, the range suddenly quiet except for the soft hum of sand across metal. The commander felt a deep chill. The woman lowered the Barrett and adjusted the bipod, her gaze sweeping the horizon as if expecting something he did not know what. Yet a sense of imminent revelation pressed against him. He realized the story behind the medal was not complete, and what came next would change everything they thought they knew about skill, courage, and survival. The men whispered to one another nervously, glancing at the SEAL commander who remained frozen, watching the woman, her hands now resting lightly on the rifle, her eyes scanning the desert she lifted, the metal slightly catching the fading sunlight, and the commander felt a cold certainty that what she carried was more than history, more than legend. It was a warning, a key, and a story that would demand reckoning very soon. And then, without a word, she rose slowly to her feet, adjusting the rifle across her shoulder. The commander felt the weight of anticipation press on him, every muscle taut, every sense alert. The wind carried dust and the faintest metallic echoes across the range. And he knew in that moment that the secret behind the metal was about to be revealed and nothing would ever be the same again. The desert heat pressed down on the range. The SEAL commander crouched behind a rusted crate, his eyes never leaving her. She moved, with the Barrett 50, like it weighed nothing, adjusting the bipod, checking the scope, her hands steady and precise. The men behind him shifted nervously, whispering to one another, yet none dared break the silence. She was no ordinary soldier, and the metal on her chest reminded him of that with every glint of sunlight. She lifted the rifle to her shoulder, scanning the horizon, murmuring numbers, distances, wind, drift, and angles. The commander felt a chill. She spoke quietly as if talking to the desert itself, her voice soft yet carrying authority, every syllable precise, deliberate, like a chant of calculation. He had trained with marksmen before, but none had ever measured distances and wind and elevation with such ease or confidence. She exhaled slowly, lining up a distant target. He saw the first shot leave the barrel, the sound echoing across the sand. A faint dust plume erupting as the target went down. The men around him gasped, whispering disbelief. She adjusted the rifle quickly, checking the scope again. Another shot. Another target farther than any range marker on the course. The commander stepped back, his pulse quickening, each hit impossible to ignore, her skill beyond human reflex, beyond training. He felt a mix of awe and fear. The desert seemed to hold its breath as she continued firing, calculating for wind, gravity, distance, and even mirages that shimmered in the heat. Every shot hitting precise, devastating, impossible. The men froze, unable to comprehend what they saw. She moved methodically, each round a heartbeat, each impact a story. He noticed the scars on her hands, faint, but telling her past, a record of survival and lethality written into her body. The metal 305 kills glinting in the sun, a testament to experience beyond measure. Another shadow appeared along the ridge, a figure moving fast and deliberate. The men raised rifles, panicked, but Wren did not flinch. She whispered for the wind, for the slope, for the distance, then fired. The Barrett, a single shot ringing across the desert. The figure faltered mid-stride, then collapsed. She reloaded without hesitation, firing again and again, each target falling, as if erased by her will. The commander realized then that the metal was not just history, it was reality. Every kill a mission remembered, every shot earned. He tried to step closer to get a better look, but she motioned subtly, stay back. The aura around her commanded respect and fear. She was in complete control, every movement, deliberate, every calculation measured and deadly. He watched her track the shadows, advancing in waves, faster, coordinated, almost inhuman. The men around him fired wild rounds, but nothing connected. She anticipated every move, every footstep, predicting the impossible with calm precision. The wind shifted dust swirling around them, masking the sound of approaching targets. The commander felt his stomach tighten. Something about this felt different. The first figures that had emerged were only practice. The next wave came from higher ground shapes, moving faster, coordinated, strategic, every motion testing them. Every reaction she fired with rhythm and patience. Each shot a heartbeat in the desert. The echoes of past missions whispered with every pull of the trigger. He noticed her metal again, glinting in the sunlight, a silent warning of what she had survived, what she had done. The shadows faltered as her rounds found their marks. She adjusted for wind and distance, calculating angles beyond. What the men could comprehend, each shot, precise, each impact, final, the desert alive with memory of missions long past every ghost she had faced in the past, present in this moment, testing her skill and focus.